welcome. I'm Colin Daniel from riffninja.com, and our lesson today is on open G major tuning. And why would we want to tune to open G major tuning? Well, there's a lot of reasons. It gives us some advantages and some different voicings, and we can use it for slide. And happen to have one of my slides. Let me give you a demonstration of that in just a few minutes. What I'm going to start with is just talking about the tuning. There are several versions, slightly different versions of G major tuning. I feel like this is the most popular and it's easy access, so we'll start there. And we're going to compare it to standard tuning, which is E, A, D, G, B, and E. Like on a standard tuned guitar, your sixth string or your thickest string is E. Then you have A, D, G, B, and E. That's what you tune to in standard tuning. Now, we're going to tune to a G major chord, and depending on your level of a player that you are right now, what we're really doing is we're taking the three notes out of a G major chord, the three basic notes needed to make a G major chord. So for G major, it's G, B, and D. And as soon as you have a G, B, and a D in harmony with each other, ringing together, you have created what we call a chord harmony. In this case, if we have a G, B, and a D together, we create what we call the G major chord harmony. That's the description of it. Major is bright and happy, and chord is three or more notes. And you can have octave repeats like we have in this open G that I just tuned my guitar to prior to the start of this lesson. And now I'm just going to go through it and explain it to you, right? So normally sixth string is E, now it's going to be D. Fifth string is usually A in a standard tuning, now it's going to be G. Fourth string is D and it can stay that way, it's perfect. The G can stay as a G on the third string. The B can stay too, and then all we need to take care of is the high E string, which is tuned down to a D. Therefore now your strings are tuned D, G, D, G, B, and D. And we have three different notes, but we have a repeat of quite a few too. That's not an issue. A repeat is not an issue as long as you have the three basic notes needed to create the G major chord. You will have a G major open tuning. A lot of times if you really want a G sound in this kind of a tuning, you have to play it from the fifth string because that's where your root is. The D is a low root. So you can play country with it. You've got your inverted fifth there in bass notes, but the root is actually on the fifth string, right? You can fret it, and you can slide with it. So it's got quite a few different uses if you understand the tuning, and it helps a whole lot. So while we're at it, I'm going to show you three primary changes that you can apply to either a slide or fretted. Fretted takes less explanation, so I'll leave that to the end. But as far as the slide goes, I've been reading a lot of comments and the feedback from many students, and I've come to the conclusion that you need to know why I put my slide on the big bad finger. Well, it's a personal choice, would be my answer. For me, there's many reasons. I'll get to them in a minute. But you could have your slide on any finger. And I've even got pinky slides too for different types of songs or different styles. And I'll use pinky slides too. It just depends on what I want to accomplish on my guitar at the time. I like a really big fat glass slide And I like it on my bad boy finger because I always like a finger behind it just to mute the strings so they don't rattle a lot when I use the slide. Because what's going on is you're taking this glass cylinder, and you can use brass too, and there's all kinds of different sizes available. I could get into a huge lesson about that. I don't really want to do that. But here's the deal. I've got this slide, and it's thick and it's big, and I like to have my first finger in behind it to mute, right? Because otherwise it sounds too glassy. It has a bit of that glassiness where I can eliminate that by and make it really smooth, right? There's my G again, right? And the other reason why I have the slide on this bad boy is because I also like to play intervals or partial chords or notes along with my slide. Like I'll do something like this. I'll go. And I'll mix my slide together with some fretting options, right? So those are my reasons for putting the glass slide there. That's it. And like I said before, I've got other slides for the other fingers depending on what I want to accomplish. But in this particular lesson and in the mood I'm in right now and what I want to play, I'm going to use this big, heavy, thick slide on my second finger. But you experiment. Find out what works for you, right? There's no right or wrong way. It's not what you use. I mean, I've seen knives and flashlights and Bic lighters used as slides too. Whatever floats your boat, okay? Now, just wanted to talk about the three main changes. And then you've got something to play along with this tuning, right? So we'll just take G, C, and D. And you can just practice getting them clear. It's just fun to take G, C, and D and almost any, you don't even have to have a slide for this, You can leave the slide completely off, right? So here's my G major. Now, the three primary chords are the three most used, most common, most important structurally for music, structurally for a lot of songs we have, and it's a good place to start. Not every song follows that rule to a T, but it's a very good starting place. And so we have G, C, and D is the 1, 4, 5. And if I've got a G here, then I have a C here and a D here. Why is that? Well, if this is G, then this is A, then this is B, then this is C, and that's my root on the 5th string, right? So there's my C, and if that's C and I move it up 2 more frets, that's got to be D, because C to D is a tone. That's a fact in our musical system. So now we have G, C, and D. And like I said before, I sometimes like that low D string here, and I'll bar it, and I'll use it for more of a country feel, like. And then I'll move up. So that's the D, then there's the C. Still using G, C, and D, right? Just being creative with it. I didn't want to teach you any progression in specific. I just wanted to show you what can be done with a slide, and you can steal a few things and get going. So G, C, and D. That's what I'm using basically. Get used to that first. And there's a G at the 12th fret too. Double dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Bingo, right there. 12th fret. I particularly like that for the slide, right? You see, so now I can play blues with it. G, C, and D again, right? Where I would normally place my finger and bar down the fret, I'm actually barring the fret in front of my finger, right? So when I use a slide, I have to sit very close to right over the fret, not behind it like I would when I'm fretting it, right? So I got to slide up that pitch, and it's partly by ear that you play because you have to listen. There's my C, right? So I'm going from G to C, and I like to slide up. That's what the slide's for. It's for expression, right? Sometimes I'll just slide up on the bass note. You know, once you get the G, C, and D positions down, whether you're fretting it or not, or whether you're sliding up to it, the slide is a wonderful expression that you can't get the same effect, right? So that's why the slide is cool, because you can slide up to the notes and change the pitches on them slightly. But the trick is then to listen to make sure you're on pitch, right? How do you do that? Lots of practice, getting familiar. You can compare it to the fretted one. You know, that's a good way. I just slide up to the note and I can hear it when it's in pitch. Personal preference thing. Anyways, so I need you to get on to G, C, and D, either fretted or using a slide. And don't forget your octave. Okay, kids, this is lesson number 1, and we've got a series of 3 here. So if you've got this down now, I'll show you what to do with the chords in my next lesson. And if you'd like to learn more about slide, and even in more detail and more meticulously than I've done today, and you're super interested, check me out at riffninja.com, because I got a really cool blues slide course that you should check out. All right, thanks for your time. See you later.